Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the theater of politics disguised as a debate. Tonight, under the blinding lights and carefully arranged podiums, two figures stride onto the stage, each carrying with them a narrative so different it feels like the universe itself wanted a collision. On one side, Ivanka Trump, the polished, calculated, designer-dressed heiress of privilege, standing tall as if she were sculpted for this exact purpose. On the other side, Jasmine Crockett, fiery, unapologetic, unpolished in the best way, her voice carrying the rhythm of truth and rebellion, her stance exuding the energy of someone who refuses to be silenced. The crowd holds its breath, because this is not just another night of empty slogans. No, this is going to be a battlefield where wealth and privilege meet fire and authenticity. And the narrator, me, is here to tell you exactly how it unfolds. Ivanka takes the microphone first, not because the rules said she should, but because she feels entitled to. She begins with that smile, the one rehearsed in the mirror, perfected for magazine covers, the smile that says, "I was born for this stage." She talks about leadership, about calmness in chaos, about how refinement and poise are what true power looks like. She doesn't shout, she doesn't wave her arms. She's cool, collected, every word a carefully polished diamond. But Jasmine Crockett, oh Jasmine, she doesn't wait her turn. She laughs, a laugh that slices through Ivanka's speech like a blade through silk. She calls out the privilege dripping from every syllable, the audacity of someone born into towers of gold preaching to people who never even had a ladder to climb. Her words sting, and the crowd erupts. Because truth, even when messy, always tastes fresher than scripted perfection. Now, the battle has begun. Ivanka, unshaken on the surface but burning inside, pivots. She leans into her narrative of composure. She says that real leadership is not about shouting, not about anger, but about grace under fire. She paints a picture of herself as the calm eye of the storm, a leader above the fray, unbothered by chaos. And for a moment, some in the crowd nod, because the polished story works on paper. But Jasmine isn't here for paper. She's here for reality. She slams her hand on the podium, her voice rising with the rhythm of a preacher in a revival tent. She says leadership without empathy is tyranny in silk. She says power that doesn't sweat, bleed, or get messy isn't power. It's inheritance dressed up as achievement. And with every word, she chips away at Ivanka's carefully built facade. Now, let's pause for a moment and consider what's really happening here. This is not just two women talking. This is the collision of two worlds, the inherited empire and the earned struggle. One polished by wealth, the other sharpened by experience. And the tension between them is electric. The insults begin to fly, not shouted, not crude, but sharp, cutting daggers delivered with precision. Ivanka accuses Jasmine of being too emotional, too uncontrolled, too chaotic to ever lead effectively. Jasmine smirks and says emotion is not a weakness. It's the only honest compass left in politics. She points out that Ivanka's calmness is not strength but detachment, the product of never having to worry about survival. The audience gasps. They're not just watching a debate anymore. They're watching privilege and passion clash so violently that sparks practically catch fire on the stage floor. Ivanka doesn't flinch. She doubles down. She says composure is the only way to handle power, that rage burns leaders out, while grace sustains them. She paints herself as timeless, unbreakable, eternal. But Jasmine fires back with the kind of truth you can't rehearse. She says composure without conviction is just silence. That poise without action is just posing. And that the world doesn't need another quiet, smiling, well-dressed figurehead. The world needs leaders who feel, who fight, who burn with the fire of injustice. And at that, the crowd doesn't just clap. They roar. Because fire, my friends, is always more entertaining than glass. The cameras zoom in. Sweat beads on Ivanka's forehead, though she tries to hide it. Jasmine leans forward, daring her to break. And in that moment, the stage isn't just a stage, it's an arena. An arena where one side believes leadership is inherited calm, and the other believes leadership is earned fire. And the night is far from over. Because as the debate rages on, the insults sharpen, the philosophies collide, and the performance of power reaches a fever pitch. What you're watching is not just political theater. It's a mirror of the world we live in, where privilege and passion are in constant war, and only one can leave the stage victorious. The stage grows hotter, not because the lights have changed, but because the words being exchanged are now setting fire to the very air. Ivanka Trump, still determined to remain the image of calm control, begins weaving a narrative of legacy, of how leadership requires continuity, tradition, the passing down of responsibility from one capable hand to the next. It's the story of dynasties, of empires preserved through polish and prestige. And she places herself squarely in the center of that tale. But Jasmine Crockett, oh, she doesn't let that slide. She laughs again, not the laugh of amusement, but the laugh of disbelief, the kind that says, "Did you really just try that?" She raises her hand and points out, with brutal clarity, that dynasties don't build nations. They suffocate them. They choke out the voices of the people in favor of inherited entitlement. She tells Ivanka, "Your story isn't leadership. It's a fairy tale written by wealth for wealth. Leadership isn't passed down like jewelry. It's earned in the fire of struggle, in the streets, in the sweat of survival. You don't inherit leadership. You fight for it." The crowd erupts. The cameras flash. And Ivanka feels, for the first time, the cracks in her composure widening. But Ivanka, trained in the art of smooth deflection, doesn't crumble. She steadies herself and delivers a counterstrike that is sharp, icy, and precise. She accuses Jasmine of being reckless, of confusing passion with chaos, of dressing anger up as leadership. She claims that the world doesn't need more shouting, more fire. It needs calm hands, strategic minds, leaders who can step above the noise. And there it is, the clash of philosophies in full bloom. Ivanka believes in leadership as elevation. Jasmine believes in leadership as immersion. Ivanka says stand above the crowd. Jasmine says stand with the crowd. And the audience sits at the edge of their seats because this is not just performance anymore. This is a battle of visions for how power itself should be wielded. Now, Jasmine knows how to turn a debate into a spectacle. She leans in, her voice rising, her eyes locked on Ivanka's polished exterior. She calls out the hypocrisy, how Ivanka's calmness is only possible because she's never had to face the storms the people face. She says, calmness isn't strength when you've never been hungry. Composure isn't power when you've never been powerless. Don't preach to the people about grace when you've never had to beg for mercy. And the room, once divided, starts shifting, because truth spoken with fire has a gravity all its own. Ivanka, realizing her shield of composure is being battered, digs deeper. She invokes her father's legacy, the empire, the brand, the aura of unstoppable dominance. She positions herself as not just an individual, but as part of a dynasty that has proven its strength on the world stage. It's a power play, a reminder that her name carries weight, carries influence, carries history. But Jasmine is ready. She counters not with dynasty, but with democracy. She tells the audience that leadership is not about names, but about needs. Not about legacies, but about lives. She paints Ivanka's dynasty as a gilded cage, a performance of power that looks shiny from the outside, but is hollow within. And once again, the people cheer. Because the world, no matter how dazzled by wealth, always hungers for truth. The insults sharpen further. Ivanka accuses Jasmine of pandering, of playing to the crowd with theatrics instead of substance. Jasmine shoots back that substance without soul is just silence, and that the people don't need quiet figureheads in gowns. They need fighters in the trenches. Now the air is thick with tension. Every word feels like a punch, every comeback like a blade. The moderator has lost control. The crowd is no longer a passive audience. They're witnesses to a duel. And both Ivanka and Jasmine know it. This isn't about points scored, it's about dominance asserted. And here's the brilliance of satire, my friends. As this battle unfolds, what we see is not just two women debating, but the theater of leadership itself. One side saying, control, calm, composure. The other side saying, passion, fire, fight. And both sides exposing the weaknesses of the other. By now, Ivanka's calm voice sounds less like strength and more like detachment. Jasmine's fire sounds less like chaos and more like conviction. And the crowd feels it, the tide turning, the balance shifting. The cameras zoom in once again. Ivanka's smile is still there, but it trembles at the edges.